Welcome to DevOps Days Dallas, where yes, dogs still do eat free. And also, we all gathered here today because we love helping the community. And one of the big things about helping the community is leadership. And that's why Dr. Rajiv, Shah, and I are going to present a leadership journey for engineers. And this is going to be a take on DevOps and a shift left on leadership and gaining some of those leadership skills. As Naj said, Dr. Rajiv Shah is from the University of Texas at Dallas, and I'm from JP Morgan Chase. I'm going to briefly go over some of the topics that we're going to cover today. There's going to be an introduction. We're going to talk about leadership benefits. What are the challenges? How does it work? Somebody on this stage might give a testimonial. Continuous learning and mentoring. How this leads to great employee engagement and corporate culture. The long-term, far-reaching community impacts. Then, of course, there's going to be a call to action. And at the end, we're looking forward to taking any questions. But first, I'm going to tell you a story. The name of the story is The Prince and the Sheep. Once upon a time, in a great land, there was a great drought. And there was a prince in this land, and he lost everything. And at this point in time, the prince didn't know what to do, but he knew that he could go to his friend, the king in a neighboring kingdom, and ask for help. So that's what he did. And the king told him, I can give you 100 sheep. I want you to take these sheep, take them to a land. I want you to help them flourish and help them develop. And then after a period of time, you can come back to me, and I'll give you some additional advice. And that's what the prince did. He took his sheep out into the land, and unfortunately, in the middle of the night, the sheep got attacked by wolves. And once again, the prince had lost everything. He didn't know what to do, but he knew that he could go back to his friend, the king, and ask for additional help. So that's what he did. He went back to his friend, the king, and he said, will you help me again? And the king said, of course I will. I'm going to give you 50 sheep this time. I want you to take them out into the land. I want you to help them develop, help them flourish. And then after a period of time, come back to me and I'll give you some additional advice. And the prince thought about it this time, and as he was taking the sheep out into the land, he thought, maybe I should go to a place where there's no wolves. And that's what he did. But the wolves found the sheep, and in the middle of the night, they attacked. And once again, the prince had lost everything. He knew he could only go back to his friend the king one more time. And so he did, and he asked for help. And the king said, this is the last time I'm going to be able to help you, but I'm going to give you 25 sheep. Please take them out, help them develop, help them flourish. And then after a period of time, come back to me and I'll give you some additional advice. And so that's what he did. The prince thought about it this time, and he went to a land where there would be no wolves and where he could set up a perimeter to protect the sheep. So he took the sheep out to this land, and we can't predict for everything. The wolves did come in the middle of the night, and they did try to attack the sheep. But the prince was able to fight them off. And then the sheep began to flourish. They began to develop. 25 sheep turned into 50 sheep. 50 sheep turned into 100 sheep. And after they turned into 100 sheep, the prince knew it was time to go back to the king in the neighboring kingdom and ask for advice. And the king said, I can do something much better than advice. I'm going to give you some lands. You've proven that you've had a mindset shift to where you took the sheep and you protected them. That's the leadership mindset. I'm going to give you the lands. People will come to them. And they'll have jobs because they have sheep. This story has a couple lessons. One of which is that some lessons are learned the hard way. And that's what happened to the prince. he had to learn a couple of lessons the hard way. And that's what we're going to be talking about here today, how to learn some of those lessons a little bit earlier. And then also, there's a great lesson from the king. He took the time and he turned and helped the prince, and he helped him become a great leader. We're going to talk a little bit more about the shift left on leadership. We're going to talk about the university program that Dr. Shah developed, how it develops leaders, and how we should continuously learn, because there's always new things to learn about leadership. Shift left on learning and never stop. Develop these skills, gain the feedback, and continue to help them grow. Yoda said, "Your path you must decide." There's going to be many paths that we have on our leadership journeys. And learning the skills and having the time to take to reflect on them and gain the feedback, those are going to be essential to developing us and then turning and helping others. But there's not just one path, so there's multiple ways to get there. And then once again, why is leadership important? It helps with so many things. Employee engagement, recruiting and retaining top talent, innovation, and employee satisfaction. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Dr. Shah, and he's going to talk about some of the challenges.
Thank you, Paula. Can you hear me back there? All right. So that is a great setup about leadership and what it entails and various ways of getting there. So obviously, you can learn that on the job, but there are other ways to develop leadership much earlier, and that's what we're going to talk about. So the first challenge, of course, is teaching junior engineers to become senior engineers, managers, and leaders, and then we talk about how do you do continuous development of managers and leaders to become even bigger leaders and move up in the corporation. So let's start with the first challenge, right? So the first challenge, of course, is taking early stage engineers, junior engineers, and trying to groom them, develop them to be senior engineers, managers, and leaders. So what does it take, right? So this is an age-old problem. This is not new. This has been going on for years and years and years. And it's true across various industries, and it's especially true in the high-tech sector, in the technology-based companies. So the question arises, what does it take for junior engineers to become senior engineers and then transition to managers and leaders? What are the skill sets? What skill sets are missing? What needs to be developed? And this talks to the challenges and the problems that we have, and it has to do with the engineering education. Again, there's nothing wrong with the engineering education. By necessity, the 4-year degree requires you to take all engineering courses, right? You don't have the bandwidth or the time to take other types of courses. Plus, you do some degree of specialization. You're a software engineer or a computer engineer or an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, what have you, right? And you have not had the time to take any business courses or to develop any soft skills. And so certainly those softer aspects of management and leadership have not been developed, and neither have the skills for managing businesses, right? Now, what happens if you go get a master's degree in engineering or you get a PhD? Well, from being specialized in a particular area like software engineering, when you get your bachelor's, when you get a master's, you're even more specialized. When you get a PhD, you're further specialized. I'm kind of like the poster child for that. This is kind of what I went through in my career as a highly specialized person in a field called laser physics and laser engineering when I got my PhD in that field. But I was a double E-Bar trainee and got further narrow and narrow and narrow, right? You still do not have any exposure to soft skills, business skills, and certainly you don't learn any leadership skills, right? So those are entirely missing in our engineering education. Again, it's not a fault of our engineering education. It is just the way it is, right? So one of the first things you got to do to grow the junior engineers into senior engineers is to broaden their engineering skills from a narrow discipline to broader engineering skills across various disciplines within engineering, and also teach them some business skills and other soft skills as well. These are fundamental soft skills of communication, of collaboration, of delegation, and so on, right? So these are some of the skills you need to develop to grow these engineers into senior engineers. And then what does it take to transition from that to be a manager or leader? You need further business skills. You need skills in people management. You need skills in communication, motivation, leadership, and so on. So you got to build these additional skill sets. And then if you want to move up the leadership ladder, you got to have other skills too: coaching, encouraging, leading, empowering, and so forth, right? So basically, you're adding more and more to your soft skills. So recognizing this challenge and having had this kind of experience myself with my career transitioning over a long period of time from being an engineer to a manager and leader, the University of Texas developed a new program. The website link is there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the solution. So basically what this program does, this program is called the Professional Systems Engineering Management Program, or PSEM for short. And it's basically helps engineers broaden out their engineering skills and also teaches them some basic management skills: project management, accounting, finance, organizational behavior, marketing, and so on, right? And also helps them develop some soft skills as well. It's a joint program between the School of Engineering and School of Management, and it's a fairly unique program. It's a 50-50 partnership between the two schools, and it's an equal number of courses in engineering and management. And again, like I said before, it takes you beyond the basic engineering into broader systems level engineering, and also we teach these students additional skill sets. And these are targeted, this program is targeted towards working professionals who have been out in the field for 3 years or more. We have had students who have been in industry for 20, 25 years as well, okay? This program is a fully accredited program by the UT system and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. And again, like I said before, it's targeted towards working professionals. It's 36 credit hours, and you get a master's degree after that. And again, the 12 courses that they take are equal number 6 and 6 of engineering and management, okay? So with that, Paula, I think this is your slide.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. So how does the systems approach work? There's a lot of good questions about this. You're beginning with the end goal in mind, knowing that you want to develop leadership skills. And these will come in handy throughout our careers. There's transparency. Know what leadership is about. The prince learned what leadership was about. It was about helping the sheep and helping the people. Identify the skills. Know what to improve. And using DevOps principles, have those fast feedback loops so we can do learning and repetition. The more repetition we do, the more muscle memory we build. Now I'm going to give you a testimonial. This is going to take me back to the university days, where Dr. Shah took the time and mentored me. We wanted to build a community service program at the University of Texas at Dallas, and we worked together and worked on a leadership team with students. And we grew to 200 student volunteers. We were working on over 10 community programs that were able to make a significant impact in the community. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot during those days, and because there were many moving pieces to this, and there were many situations where leadership skills came in handy. And this allowed me to improve my skills early, because Dr. Shah took the time to mentor me. I'm going to pass the floor back to Dr. Shah, and he's going to talk more about professional development, teaching, and mentoring.
Thank you, Paula. So I guess we have covered one transition that engineers will go through from junior engineers to senior engineers and potentially also managers and leaders. So the journey is never complete. Okay? There's always more to learn and more to develop. And so the second challenge, of course, is how do you continue this professional development, teaching, training, and continue mentoring these professionals, right? So this chart is kind of an old chart I pulled out, which I've used a number of times in my courses. And really, it really boils down to this question of what is leadership, right? You know, Paula gave some nice anecdotal stories. But in reality, what you need is you need a whole bunch of hard skills and soft skills. And as you go further and further up the ladder in corporate America, you need more and more soft skills, being able to work with all kinds of people, managing all kinds of situations. But you don't just get there, right? You have to have all these building blocks. And this is why you see this triangle on the right, which represents all the different things in those building blocks that you got to learn over a period of time. All the way from skills that are basically quote-unquote hard skills, accounting and finance and engineering, and particular specialization in software engineering or whatever it is. As you build those building blocks, you have to also cultivate some of the other soft skills. And the further up you go, you need more and more soft skills. And this is also where you collect a lot of knowledge and experience and wisdom along the way, much like what we heard from Paula about Yoda, right? So it takes time to get there. So what are some of these soft skills? I'm not going to read this. It's an eye chart, but this is a kind of a list of some of the soft skills that are important as you move up the ladder. So I think Paula's going to take over here, talk a little bit more about some of the benefits of learning some of these soft skills.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's so many benefits that come from learning these soft skills because they lead to having strong leadership. I work for a company that has very strong leaders, and there's a really strong focus on having leadership. And there's many benefits that come from that because leadership increases employee engagement. When we all feel that our voices are heard and we all know that we have a seat at the table, then it makes people want to be more engaged. And this does lead to profitability and productivity and all of those things that we love to count. But it's also a great work environment, and that's what we all strive for. Leaders improve that corporate culture. 77% of people responded in a survey that they consider a company's corporate culture before applying for a job. That means that they know before they apply if the company is going to be a happy place to work or not, or have a strong corporate culture, or want to develop leadership. So that brings top talent into the door, as well as retaining top talent. Then 56% of respondents said that a company's corporate culture is more important than salary as it relates to job satisfaction. And we all know how important money is. So this is a pretty big stat. So how do leaders improve corporate culture? Well, everybody in this room is a leader. We all came together here today because we like to improve things. We like to improve technology, we love innovation, we love the community, and we're all leaders. So continuously talking about that in the work environment. So talk about it all the time. Live it, eat it, sleep it, dream it. And find people that want to talk about it with you and collaborate with them. Because great things happen when you find great people to do them with. I'm going to pass the floor back over to Dr. Shah, and he's going to talk more about the community impacts.
So as you work in companies, whether it's your own company, a small company that has grown large, or you're working for a very large corporation, the fact remains that you have to come up with the new ideas, new technologies, and new products, because that's how new businesses are created. In fact, here are some surveys from McKinsey that were published just last year, which talk about the value creation from new businesses far exceeds the value creation from mature businesses. So value creation by starting new businesses within existing companies, large companies, small companies, is extremely important. So one of the things we try to educate some of our students also in those areas is we have programs as part of further development, teaching, and mentoring. We have a program within the Institute for Innovation Entrepreneurship at the Jindal School of Management at UTD. And this teaches how to do corporate innovation, okay? And we have a certificate for that. And there are 3-4 courses. I've listed 3 courses here. One can take these courses and get a certificate in innovation entrepreneurship, especially corporate innovation. And you can learn the process of creating new technology, new products, and new businesses, and how to structure these within companies, and also how do you engage with the partner companies to accomplish that. So just a little bit more in terms of part of continuing education, right? So with that, let me bring in Paula back here and kind of open this up to see we can talk about some of the most powerful leadership lessons that some of you may have received. So,
thank you, Dr. Shah. We're going to close out today. We're going to ask a question. The question is, what is the most powerful leadership advice you've received? Some of the most powerful leadership advice that I've received came from the man standing next to me. He told me that the difference between success and failure is someone taking an interest. And I've always wanted to take an interest in people's careers and help them succeed. And so many people have taken an interest in me and helped me succeed. Many of you are sitting in the room today, and I am extremely grateful. We have a great community here, and we're all great leaders. And I want to ask everyone if they can share some powerful leadership advice, if we can get some of that, or if you have any other additional questions. And then I want to thank everyone for their time today. We've been having a great time up here.
Thank you. Any questions? The floor is open. Is there a mic that can go around? Okay, go ahead. I'm happy to take the question first, and I'll then turn to Paula. Well, you know, I would hate to call it a roadmap, but there are a lot of critical skills, and any course in, say, organizational behavior or leadership within organizational behavior will talk to some of those skills. One of the most fundamental skills, which I think most leaders exhibit, is emotional intelligence. Being able to relate to, put yourself in somebody else's shoes, okay? And see what they are going through. Being able to relate to other human beings, being able to relate to somebody else's issues, that is one of the most fundamental things which most great leaders at least start off with or develop along the way. And beyond that, there are just basic fundamental skills such as communication, involving people, leading teams, managing time. So those are all basic skills which are kind of listed on one of the slides. But I would if I were to venture a guess, picking a single most important skill is emotional intelligence. Paula, you want to add to that?
I completely agree with that. It's asking a lot of questions, asking how the team feels about things, and then coming back to, and working in a collaborative way, too. And those are some of the things that start off a lot of great discussions and amazing things is asking a lot of questions is one thing that I'll say.
Engaging people, involving people, see how they're going to feel about it, see how you would feel if you were in those shoes, really kind of comes down to. Other questions? Great question. Yeah.
This might be top speed now.
Does it work?
A fabulous presentation, by the way. It's hard to talk about DevOps without talking about Toyota Production System, right? Like there's a large IP of that sort of. One of the things I think Mike Rother codifies very well in his Toyota Kata, and I actually got to visit a bunch of places early this year in a Japan study trip, is the notion of a sort of a prescriptive mentoring model in an organization where everybody, at least Rother's version of what I saw, is everybody had a mentor-mentee relation from top all the way to bottom. And I think I loved your point about somebody taking an interest in you. I think that was a profound statement. And I really think, if you hadn't read Mike Rother's Toyota Kata, he really codifies that principle of mentor-mentee. And I think most organizations sort of lack that or don't think that through as proper. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
I love that thought. When everybody takes the time to mentor each other and help each other, then it really helps everyone grow. And I always love those kind of things that will help an organization develop everyone in it and make everybody stronger together.
It's a good question again. Also, I can vouch to the fact that I personally have benefited from it all the way from my high school days, where I had some teachers take a lot of interest and mentor me along the way. I had the same experience in college and then in my graduate education as well. And when I worked in corporations here in the early years in the 80s, there wasn't that much of a culture of mentoring, but over time that has developed. And most companies these days do have the mentoring relationship. And not only companies, but even universities, within UTD, for example, a lot of the faculty are supposed to mentor not only some of the students, but some of the junior faculty, new faculty as well. And while I was still in corporate America, I was invited to be a mentor for students at a couple of the local universities, and I have done that as well. So I think this mentoring relationship, mentor-mentee, is a very important one. No questions about it.
I agree. And I'm a mentor and a mentee.
Other questions? See a hand back up there? Is there a hand up there? Maybe not. Any other questions? Yeah, back there.
Hold on. Where's the question? Oh, right there.
So just a kind of personal question. So I'm a senior engineer now, been in the industry 12 years, but I actually never completed my 4-year degree. So what would you recommend for someone like me looking to move into management? Is that something that's required from your experience? Like, do I need to go back and finish that? Or are there other ways to move into management without that? What would you recommend?
So let me take that one. If you've been an engineer for 12 years, obviously your work experience counts for a lot, and depends on the kind of industry you're working in. You may or may not necessarily require the prior 4-year college degree, okay? And I do know of a lot of people who have moved into management and leadership positions without actually having those credentials before that. So, yeah, I mean, just because you don't have a 4-year college degree does not mean you cannot further your education in terms of learning some of the skills that are helpful to become a leader or to improve as a manager. So I would encourage you to continue on that journey.
I agree. There are many paths to a leadership journey, and it's something that you should do because you want to. And you have great experience. So being able to study and things like that, those are things that can be a part of your path or not a part of your path.
One comment I remember very early in my career from one of my managers at the time was, he said, Rajiv, leaders float to the top, they're not appointed, okay? So you basically, what I'm saying with that, or what he was saying with that, is it's the desire to work with people, desire to help people, desire to accomplish things as a group, that's important. Think of this as a coach on a minor league or major league teams, right? They are helping the coaching, they're developing people, and that's helping achieve a common goal. And that's, if you aspire to do that, it does require a fair bit of work and sacrifice on the part of the leader. But that's how leaders become leaders. The 4-year education is not an absolute essential for that. Other questions?
Seriously?
What's that?
This guy went to first, and he goes, oh, it's not me, it's over there.
All right.
He called
one
first. Great question, by the way. I often wonder the same thing myself, so thank you. Regarding the mentor and mentee relationship, I've been wondering, what are some of the defining behaviors of mentors in your careers that have stood out in the mentors that have been most influential for you?
You want to take that first, Paula?
A very influential mentor standing next to me. And I've had so many great mentors over the course of my career, and a lot of the times you'll form a way you'll have a regular cadence for communication, you'll be able to ask a lot of questions, and then you'll get asked a lot of questions. And it always flows. It's always a flow state for gaining that mentorship and gaining that advice, because it seems that one lesson builds on the next lesson, builds on the next lesson, and before you know it, you're doing something that you never dreamed you could do. So those are the influential mentors that I've had in my career. They got me to get out of my comfort zone and do things that I never dreamed that I would ever do.
So just to follow up on that, in my case, one of the most influential mentors in my life were somebody who was a Jesuit priest in my Jesuit school back in India. He was one of my teachers, and he took a lot of interest and he encouraged whatever I was doing, helped improve my performance by trying to challenge myself to do better, right? So that's really what you do when you're mentoring someone, is try to challenge them to do better, right? So that was my very first one. I had some in college, some of my professors in college. And then when I was in graduate school, my thesis advisor and the committee advisors were great mentors for me as well. In my corporate career, I had so many mentors, too many to list. But they were basically my managers, my directors, my VPs, my senior VPs, people who were above me before I got to that stage. These are people who exhibited behaviors and took the interest in me to help develop those in me as well. So those are the examples that I have. And of course, we do the reverse at the university as well. Yeah. Any other questions?
Oh, we got a couple.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your questions. I think we have kind of run out of time here anyways. Don't want to get this program behind schedule.
We have one more.
Oh, we have one more? Okay. I didn't see that. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Thank you. So a piece of advice that I got from a former manager of mine was the greatest exercise for your heart is to lift others up to your level. And so I think being fairly new as an engineer and full-time, I've only been full-time for just a little over a year, I found that the best engineers in the room aren't the most technical ones. They're the ones who can lead other engineers and empower them to be just as good as they are, and that's how they can kind of propel and accelerate the entire team to move forward. One engineer can't do it all, right? So I just wanted to share that.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. That's definitely a great message.
All right, one more, I think, and unless there's any more, raise your hand if you do have a question.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'm interested in the degree path that you guys have put together that kind of combines the soft skill and the engineering skills. And often in companies, you have roles that are more formal, and then you have the behavior of the people in those roles. What would you say is the difference between a technical leader in a technical role, going from junior, senior, staff, compared to a behavior or mindset of someone going from a senior leader into a more formal manager, director, VP type role? How do they separate those two in a leadership training roadmap, if you will, or a style of learning, if you will?
Right. So from the standpoint of how we accomplish that in our program, it depends on the courses. Our program is highly flexible, so it depends on the kind of courses you sign up for. If you want to be more on the manager side, you pick up more of the managerial courses, including some of the soft skills courses of leadership, organizational behavior management, and so on. If you want to continue on your engineering path, you pick up more of the engineering courses. This is the flexibility that allows you to do that. Now, the corporations I've worked at, they also give you that opportunity. You had parallel ladders with equal corresponding positions. And one was the technical ladder, member of technical staff, junior member of technical staff, senior member of technical staff, fellows, and so on and so forth. On the managerial side, there are equivalent positions. Section had branch manager, senior manager, director, and so on and so forth. These were managerial positions. So either you get put into those positions based upon what you exhibit as your skill set, and sometimes when you have both sort of skills, you had to essentially pick, would I want to be on a managerial ladder or do I want to be on a technical ladder? Some folks have both skills. And so you got to pick. And the same thing with the program, you can pick the courses that you want to take, and that allows you to be on either side of that ladder, basically. Okay? All right, well, thank you very much. I think that was the last question. Appreciate all the questions and the interest. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you for your time.